October 1962. The world was 18 minutes away from nuclear war, and almost nobody knew it. The official history tells you about Kennedy's speeches and Khrushchev's ultimatums, but that's not where the real story lies. While the public watched the crisis unfold on their television screens, two men were communicating through channels the CIA didn't fully understand, and their conversation may have been the only thing standing between civilization and ash. Let's back up. By early October 1962, U.S. intelligence had confirmed what everyone feared. Soviet missiles were being installed in Cuba, just 90 miles from Florida. Kennedy's advisors were split. Some wanted an immediate invasion. Others pushed for nuclear strikes. The tension wasn't just geopolitical, it was existential. But here's what most people don't realize. Both Kennedy and Khrushchev were terrified, not of each other, of losing control. Both leaders understood that once the missiles started flying, the chain of command would collapse into chaos. They needed a way to talk directly without the noise of politics and military posturing. Enter the back channels. The most crucial wasn't official. It ran through Georgi Bolshakov, a Soviet intelligence officer stationed in Washington, and Robert Kennedy, the president's brother and attorney general. They'd been meeting quietly for months, building what you might call trust, or at least a working relationship. Bolshakov had direct access to Khrushchev. RFK had direct access to the president. When official channels became too rigid, too public, these two men would meet in hotel rooms and secure locations, speaking in carefully measured language about what each side would and wouldn't tolerate. On October 27th, Black Saturday, as it came to be known, a U.S. spy plane was shot down over Cuba. A Soviet general, acting on his own authority, had ordered the strike. Kennedy's military advisors saw it as an act of war. Invasion plans were being finalized. The clock was running down. That's when Bolshakov made contact. Through RFK, he conveyed a message from Khrushchev. The Soviet Union would remove the missiles if the United States agreed not to invade Cuba. It wasn't a public negotiation. It wasn't even officially acknowledged. It was a lifeline. But there was a second condition, delivered separately through another back channel, this one even more secret. Khrushchev wanted the U.S. to remove its Jupiter missiles from Turkey. Kennedy had already decided to do this, but it had to be kept quiet. If it became public, it would look like America had backed down. So Kennedy made a decision that contradicted everything his public stance suggested. Secretly, he agreed. The Jupiter missiles would be removed from Turkey within months, but the world would never know about it, at least not for years. The beauty or the tragedy of these back channels was that they allowed both leaders to save face while stepping back from the brink. Kennedy could announce he'd forced the Soviets out. Khrushchev could tell his hardliners he'd prevented an American invasion. Both were technically true. But it was fragile. On multiple occasions during those 13 days, the system nearly broke. A Soviet submarine commander, cut off from communications, nearly fired a nuclear-armed torpedo at American destroyers. Only a deliberate decision to surface saved millions of lives. The back channels worked because they were deniable. If negotiations had been public, both sides would have been locked into positions they couldn't abandon without losing credibility. Secrecy became a luxury, it allowed flexibility. What's remarkable is how close the system came to failure. There were moments when a single miscommunication, a single rogue officer, a single misinterpreted signal could have triggered a cascade that no back channel could have stopped. After the crisis ended, Kennedy and Khrushchev installed the Moscow-Washington hotline, the famous red phone. It was a direct line designed to prevent miscommunication during future crises, but it was born from a lesson both leaders had already learned, that sometimes the most important conversations happen in the shadows. The Cuban Missile Crisis was officially resolved in 13 days, but the real negotiation, the one that mattered, happened through back channels that were only declassified decades later. Most of the world never knew those conversations took place. Georgi Bolshakov continued his work in Washington for several more years, before returning to Moscow. Robert Kennedy would be assassinated in 1968, but their quiet conversations in hotel rooms had done something neither man could have achieved through official channels. They'd kept the world from burning. The lesson isn't romantic, it's practical. When stakes are highest and positions are most entrenched, sometimes the only path forward runs through the back channels, through people willing to talk when talking officially is impossible. We almost didn't survive October 1962, and the reason we did wasn't a speech or a public ultimatum. It was two men meeting in secret, choosing restraint over rhetoric. That's a story worth remembering, especially now. Subscribe to uncover the hidden conversations that shaped the Cold War, the stories that only surface when declassified documents finally see daylight.